started. Okay, so I kind of just went over the basics of if else and functions. Let's go, let's kind of start combining some stuff with like functions, variables, just kind of start maybe combining some of the things we've learned that might help you with your homework. So to do this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, because this is how your homework's going to look, is you're going to have a source folder and you're going to have a tests folder. And you're already going to, the tests are already going to be written for you. So you don't need to do any of the test stuff. What you're going to be doing is the stuff in the source folder. So let's just do like a new file in our source folder. And I'm going to call this demo.js. Because I want to start talking about, like, really start getting into functions. Okay. But let's also do this as well. Let's come in here. Let's come to our test file. Let's write a new test, demo.test.js. So what I'm doing, I'm just having a corresponding, I have a demo.js file, and then I'm going to have a corresponding test file for that. And this is where I'm going to be able to test some things. So let's actually do something that is called TDD. This is test.
Hey, James.
Yeah.
Before you start getting into that, a quick question. What are they used by the file names?
Oh, that's a good question. So this is, if I hover over that, you see how it says untracked. This is a Git thing. So what it's telling me, because I just created 2 new files, and this U is telling me these are untracked. So let's do this. Let's do a, you don't really need to do this right now at this point, but let's just do it. Let's just do a git add dot. Now they changed to an A. So they've been added. So now they're being tracked. You know, I can do a git commit added files. And now I've done an add, I've done a commit, so now there's nothing there. So it's like, now it's up to date with Git. So if I go back to like this demo test and then I make a change, I gotta save it. Now it's an M, and the M stands for modified. So that first time it's going to be a U because it's like, this has not been added yet. So that's like the first time. And then here on out, it's going to say it's an M for modified. So it's going to say, hey, this lets you know, hey, this file has been changed since the last commit. So that's what that was saying. Cool. Good question. Okay, so yeah, we're going to be doing this TDD, which stands for test-driven development. And what this really means is we write our tests first before our code. Now we're only going to really be doing this like the first week, but it can sometimes be like a thing that companies try to do. They might try to come from this perspective of, hey, let's write our tests first and then write our code. And then and then you have these tests. So I'm going to write a test. So I'm going to do a it. I'm just going to say it tests, you know, calc, because what we're going to do is, well, actually, we're going to do an add function. It tests add. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to like just come in here, let sum equal add 1 and 1. And then create a couple variables. Let's do 2 and 2. And then I can expect, what do you think I expect someone to be? I mean, we haven't written this function. I'm expecting that to be 2. Likewise with sum 2, I would expect that to be 4. So what we're doing, I mean, this is just an intro to like, what I want to do is we're just rewrite. We're going to take this plus sign that we intuitively know, and we're going to we're going to just kind of convert it into a function. We wouldn't want to do this because we already have the plus sign, but it's just trying to keep things simple, right? I want to do a add function, and an add function expects 2 numbers, right? It takes those 2 numbers and it's going to return the sum of those 2 numbers. So I can now run my test. What do you think is going to happen? Or do you think this test is going to pass?
No, it's going to fail.
Yeah. Why is this going to fail?
Because we didn't make the add function yet.
Yeah, because I don't have the add function. Sweet. So we'll run it. And then what's this error? Cannot find module. Is this the, let's see here. Did I run that right? Oh, node. I don't want to do node. Sorry, I want to do a yarn test. And then I'm going to run just this specific file. It's running. And yeah, it fails. But especially as we're learning, like I said, these errors can be really useful to kind of help us see even though we're expecting this to fail, let's look at the error. Reference error, add is not defined. So that was, this is going to break because JavaScript doesn't know what this is. Cool. So let's go define it. Now, something I might do just to maybe, let's see if this keeps this cleaner. Okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to open this one up, open up demo. And then if I drag and drop this, I'm trying to just throw these on 2 different screens. Come on. And then sweet. So this is my demo.js file right here. And this is my demo test.js. So this way I don't have to be switching and forth back in between screens, and we can kind of see everything. So let's go ahead and let's define that function. So I could do const add equals a function. Boom, there we go. And now I need to export it. So here's how we're going to do that. I do a mod, because now I want this add function to be in another file. So now we're using multiple files. This is something we haven't done yet. Or like I want to use one function in another file, right? I'm defined. So what I need to do is I need to do this module.exports, and then I can throw in my add. And now since I'm exporting that, I can now inside of here, I can import it. And actually I'm importing this a different way. So I kind of need to look it up. I'm going to say this is the old way of doing it. We'll do the newer way next week. There's a reason I'm having us do it this way. It's so we can use console.logs if we want to. So I don't want to go too much into it. This is just how we're going to do it. Okay. And then I'll kind of explain it more next week the other way. I just have to like Google it because I kind of have forgotten how to import it. Is it the same? Okay, I think. Well, let's just try it this way. This is the. Well, let's see. Okay, this is not. So what I'm going to do is now I can import it here. So import from, and then I need to give it the relative path. Does anyone know when I say like when we're talking about paths, what's the difference between when I say relative path and absolute path? First of all, do you know what a path is? When I say the word path.
The way the code's going to read in our what's going to get read first in the code.
That's not quite the thing I'm looking for. The
Are you
path.
talking about?
It's-
Sorry.
It's like where something lives.
The
So if I
file
were,
in the file in the file.
yeah, it's like the files in the files. So if I wanted to know the absolute path of this day1.js, I could do a print working directory. This is the path. So it's like the path. It's like, how do you get to this folder? This would be the absolute path because it's starting from the very root of my computer. There's also the relative path that is starting from the file you're in or the folder you're in. So this demo.test.js, it needs to import add from this source file, and I'm going to use the relative path. So what I need to do is I need to go back because that's going to get me out of the test folder. And see, VS Code's even giving me some hints. So, oh, no, it's, oh, you went back. Oh, so here's all the folders that are available now. Well, I want to go into my source folder. And then I want to grab the demo.
Why wouldn't it be easier just to target the entire file instead of just the add function? I mean, obviously we have to have one function in there, but
yeah, that's not how JavaScript works.
oh, okay. Maybe
So-
yeah, okay.
Yeah, some other languages you could just throw in like
Yeah, from what I'm used to, typically you could just import the entire file and then you'll have access to everything within that file already.
yeah. Yep. Some languages would allow you to do like, yeah, hey, just, require this folder and then bam, you have everything. JavaScript does not do that. We declare a function and then we throw them to this export. But let's run this now. So I've defined a function, I export it, now I import it, and now I can run my test. It fails. But notice this is a different failure, right? It's now getting undefined. So it's not crashing. It now add is like, it knows about add because add is now defined, but add now just is not, it doesn't do anything. So it returns undefined.
I have a weird bug looking thing.
Cool. Let's look at it.
Okay. So it's here. I don't know why it doesn't like this here. Hold on. Let me see if I can move this over.
Oh, these ones are always fun. So this is a syntax error. So first of all, does everyone know what is meant by a syntax error?
Like a human error, like you typed the wrong thing.
It'd
It's,
be as simple as an extra parenthesis or something else.
yeah, a syntax error is more specifically, yeah, it's you're kind of breaking a rule of like a rule of JavaScript. Like you're missing a parenthesis, you have an unclosed quote, there's a comma missing. So it's like it's JavaScript, you need to write exact. Like you can't be like an English paper where you forget to capitalize the first letter. Like JavaScript's going to blow up because it's going to be like, I don't know what to do about that. So yeah, it looks like you are missing something. And these can be a little tricky to find because I'm looking at this and I can't see it. So, oh, it's a little blurry, but so you have an if, right?
Oh.
And not an it.
Okay.
Yeah. So with the syntax errors, so that was pointing you towards line 12. Now, sometimes the syntax errors, they do point you in the right direction, but you can't always assume that's where they're going to be. Because JavaScript thought you're trying to do an if statement. And so that's why it's like, oh, that's there's something wrong here. So
Well, what about now?
this is what we expect, right? Your test is failing because add is defined, but if you go back to demo.js, like what add's not doing anything, right? So that's what we need to do. And this is like test-driven development. We write the test and then we can go through and run our tests and then kind of like figure out how to fix it. Okay. So can you see my VS Code now?
Yeah.
Cool. So let's go in now that we have add defined. Now it's returning undefined. So I could say in here, I could come in here and just say return 2. So see, it passed this test, expected sum 1 to be 2 because my function just returns 2, but now it fails at this one because now it's expecting 4 and it's received 2. So that's not quite what I want to do. But when I look at how I'm calling the function, what am I giving my add function? I'm giving it 2 numbers, right? These numbers can be anything, right? It could be 6 and 123. So those can be any number. What I said. So, but what I'm going to do here, I'm going to declare some parameters. This is just like my number 1, number 2. So see, this is here we call these parameters. So num1, num2 are parameters. Right here, if I say like 6 and 123, these are technically called arguments. So I'm passing the arguments. So parameters and arguments might sound like they're the same thing, but there's this distinction. Arguments are when I'm actually passing an actual value. I'm actually passing the number, right? Here, I'm just defining some parameters to my function. So yeah, now I want to do, num1 plus num2. I run this. See, now I expected 2, I'm getting undefined. Why am I getting undefined? Well, I forgot to return that value. That fails. I received 4. Oh, so here's a fail. Why? Okay, so let's look at this. It expected 129. It received 4. Why is this? Wait, why is 6 plus 123? Why is that 4? Also notice how this is grayed out. That's giving me a little hint about what's going wrong. What did I do wrong here?
Expect sum 3. It says expect sum 2 when it should be 3.
Yeah, I'm expecting some 3 right here. There we go. I could also just So remember, like, if I did 6 plus 120, or let's just keep these simple so we don't have to do crazy math. Once again, you're a fourth grader. 6 plus 1, what do you say this is? This is 7. Now that you're a little more advanced, you're a coder. I say this now that, and you know this, you know what this function does. I say add 2 and 2. What do you say that is in your mind?
It's 4.
Yeah, that's 4. It's the same 2 plus 2. It just looks a little different. It's like this new weird syntax that you're not used to. But yeah, you can just see that as 4. So what if I did right here, I did add it's a little complicated. What would you expect this to be? First of all, what is this? So do it like you would do a math problem. You can just do it one at a time if it's complicated, like break it down into the small pieces. So what is this?
5.
That's 5. And then I have a minus sign. Okay, so now I'm calling add function. And so I'm calling add function on, oh my gosh, I'm calling add function again. So what's that? 2.
2.
2. And then that's 1. So then what does this become?
3.
3,
That becomes 3. And then 5 minus 3,
2.
that becomes 2. So I'd expect that to be 2. And let's run that. So you'll start to see code like, I mean, maybe not quite like this, but you might start to see things, where, you're calling functions, subtracting them, or you're doing multiple function calls in like one line. But just go back to like that 4th grade brain of doing like, 4 plus 5 minus 9, times 12, like that stuff. That's a syntax error, but cool. Does that point make sense?
Mhm.
Cool. I want to show one more thing about functions. Let's just do something like this. I'm going to do type of add. So I don't know if this is an object or if, no, I think this is a function. Can't remember if it's an object or a function. Yeah, it is a function. What's going on here? What's the difference between add and add 1 and 1?
Syntax?
There is a syntax difference. One has parentheses, the others doesn't. This one, I am not calling this function. This is just a variable that is like, pointing to the function. Here I actually call it. So let's look at this. What would you expect the type of add 1 and 1 to be? What would you expect that to be? The type of that? Once again, do the math. What is add 1 and 1? That is just 2, right? What is the type?
Just a number.
A number. Yeah, so let's put that back. Expect that to be a number. So when I do the add without the parentheses, I'm not calling it. It's just the function. You can think of it, it's just like a variable. Like if I had, let number equal 1. Number is just a variable. See right here, I'm just making a variable, but I'm setting it equal to a function. So, but I can now pass that function around. We're gonna see this probably not today, but we're going to see, well, let's just do it just for an example. We can have a function. I'm just going to call this X just so we don't get, sometimes you use names like foo or bar or bam just to like represent, here's just a thing. So it's a random name. Let's look at this. This is a little more advanced, but let's kind of think about what this is doing. Or let's just call this call func, so we don't. So I have a function called func. I'm exporting it. And now I need to import it. So I do a comma, call func. Let's just do this down here. I'm just going to call this function. I'm going to call this function. I'm going to pass it add. This is a little brain bender right here. Mind bender. So once again, I think like if you can just just keep in mind that JavaScript, you can pass to a function, you can pass it numbers. So with our add, we just can pass it 2 numbers, right? And it will add them together. But with JavaScript, you can actually pass a function as an argument. So I have this function definition, call function, takes a function called foo. And what it does is it calls this function foo and then passes it 1 and 1. So here I'm actually calling the function and I'm passing it the add function. So what do you think this is going to be?
You missed an L on the call function.
Oh, thank you. That's going to be an error. Yeah, someone said it's going to be 2. What if I had just to maybe show you this, what if I had a minus function? So I have a minus function. This one might take you a second to wrap your head around. So like, look at this during project time, or we'll keep on seeing this concept. It's kind of why I'm bringing this up. If this is just all like inception, then that's fine. Okay, so I made a minus function. It just takes two numbers and it subtracts, the first from the second. So now I'm using my call function, which takes a function and it just calls the function with 1 and 1. And so I pass it, so I can call my function, I can call add, or I can call minus. What do you think what do you think this is going to be?
0.
0. The fact that we can pass functions to functions, and we can actually, we won't get to this yet, but we could have a function return a function in JavaScript. This makes JavaScript very it's a functional program. Functions are considered first class in JavaScript. It makes it a pretty powerful language because of that. But we'll keep it there with this little demo. I'm trying to think. Okay, what time is it? 12:30. Okay, we got some time. Let's keep going. Any questions so far with these? With this? I would say for now, this is like bonus. It's a little more advanced, but we are going to be using this. This will come up. So I kind of just wanted to throw that into you. I'm gonna get rid of this because we're not using it. Sweet. So let's go ahead. Let's write some more functions. Let me look. I kind of want to look at the homework and see what I'm having you doing. I want to get to arrays today because it looks like we have some stuff with arrays. Let's do a function with an if else statement. I don't know who can think of a little small task to do. Come on, anything? Let's do. How come I can't think of something? All the things I can think of I have on the homework, so I'm like, I don't want to do those. Let's do a word count. Okay, so what word count is going to do, I'm expecting this function to be given a string. Of words separated by commas. And I'm not going to define this yet, but let's just, because we're going to do some test-driven development, and it should return a number of words. Okay, so let's go and let's write a test first. This is another reason that test-driven development can be good, because it kind of forces you to describe what the test is doing and what the function should do, how it should work. So it counts number of words in string. And actually, we don't even need to do commas. Let's just do separated by spaces. Cool. Sounds like a good one, right? So let's say I have some string, like let string 1 equal hello, I am learning to count words. And then maybe I have another one that's just one word. And this can be another good thing about testing. You can maybe think about some like edge cases. Like, oh, can it work with, multiple words? What if it's just one word? What if it's no words? Stuff like that. We're not going to worry about unique words, so let's just do. Okay, cool. So now I have 4 strings, and I can start writing my expectations. So I expect, let's call this function word count. Why am I calling this function word count?
Easier to read.
Yeah, I think it's a good name. So I think I'm just going to do this in here. So I expect word count string 1. What do I expect this to be? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And string 2, I expect that to be 1. I expect string 3 to be 0. And I expect string 4 to be 2. Right? And can you start to see why test-driven development, this is kind of nice? Because it's kind of, you're not worrying about writing your code or writing your function. You're kind of forcing yourself to think about, how should I write my function? What should its behavior be? I could even, if we could even do something like, what if someone gives us a number? Like, we could expect that to be an error. And let's do that. Let's expect this to be invalid input, the string invalid input. Just because. So it's not going to throw an error. It's just going to say invalid input. Or actually, let's do -1. We could do -1, and then we know if we return -1, something went wrong. So if they don't give us anything, that would, well, let's just do a number. And maybe I'll hold off on that one just to not get too complicated. But that's what we can do with testing. We can think about, hey, what happens if they give us invalid input? But let's just kind of start with this for now. Okay. So if I run another thing that's good to get good at is guessing what's going to happen before you run your code. Kind of predicting. So if I run my code now, if I run my test, what's going to happen? And if you can be like specific about like what's going to happen, that's even better. Any idea?
It's going to have an error because word count isn't defined.
Exactly. I'm going to get that word count is not defined. So there's my error, reference error. Word count's not defined. Now, the reason why it's really good to like be able to predict these and also read them, because now as you start to run into these errors, it's saying, hey, on line 41, it's like, boom, it's telling me right where it's happening. This is undefined. Oh, perfect. I know exactly what this issue is. So I need to now come and define that const word count. Let's do this another way. I'm going to, here's another way to define a function that you'll see. And I'm only, because I'm showing you this because you might see this in examples. So we can do a function and then the name. So word count. There we go. So for now, what I'm going to say, there's 2 different ways to define a function. You can use either way. And actually in the homework, I have the functions like stubbed out for you. But as you're going through tutorials or looking online, you might you might see functions being defined this way, and you'll see them being defined this way. So now if I run this, it failed. What do you think it failed at? Like, what do you think, or like, why is this failing? Even before I scroll up and look at it. So what does this function, I've defined this function, well, actually, sorry. Did I not import it? I forgot if I imported this actually. Let's do this. Let's do word count. Sorry, I'm still getting my undefined because I never. So if I scroll up, I'm still getting my undefined error because I defined it, but I'm not exporting it and I'm not importing it. So now I'm going to get another failure, but this time the failure is I'm receiving undefined. Well, this function isn't returning anything, right? Functions return undefined by default. So when I call my function right here, going back to like the math, just always like, what is 1 + 1? What is word count of string 1? Well, this function doesn't return anything. That is undefined. I have this return yo, just to run this. Expected 7, I received yo. So yeah, that's not what I want to do. Well, I'm kind of expecting this function to get a string, right? I don't know what to call this. I think string is like str or words. I think words could be a word string. Word string. I'm trying to think of like a way to describe that. I think words is fine. So now I'm going to have, does this make sense what words is going to become? I think students, when you're learning functions, the parameters gets confusing, right? Words is kind of this generic thing that can be, it's just going to be what's ever passed to it. If I do word count and I pass it 1, what is words going to be when that is called?
1.
It's going to be 1. I pass in an array, what is words going to be? It's going to be that array. It's going to be whatever I pass to that function. So this is once again kind of going back. When I'm defining this function, I'm expecting the user of my function to pass me a string. Right? Just like with the add function, they better give me 2 numbers. If they give me 1 plus array, I'm going to be like, what? Or if they don't give me anything, nothing plus, you know, this is where as the coder, you're kind of, you kind of got to keep those types and like the, what are called like the method signatures, kind of what they're expected. You got to keep track of those. So now I know, or like, now I know words is a string. Okay, so now we get to this part though. So, and if you ever want to like test, you can still do console.logs. We can use console.logs. You can run your tests. See, it's logging that right there. There's words, hello, I am leaving to count word, leaving, I should say learning. So you can still use console.logs to see what is there. Cool. But now we kind of got to the point where we can kind of get into like the meat and potatoes of this. And that's like, well, now that I have a string, how do I count? Like, how do I count the words? Ideas.
You can use the split function to split that string into an array by I can't remember what it's called, but the argument where it splits is just a space, and then everything after that, or sorry, then that space should split each word into its own entry in the array.
Cool. Yeah, and I think that could be a good idea. So let's do that. Something you might want to do though, in your homework, you can maybe in your index.js, or you could come in here, you could do a new file like sandbox.js. Or you might just want an environment that doesn't have your code where you can just kind of experiment with things. And you can also do that typing node, because yes, John was saying I could use the split method. So what I could do is I could, if I'm a little curious, I could come in and kind of see in node, just how does that work? Or if the other thing I was going to say, if you didn't have, let's say we don't know about the split method, what else could I do? So this is what, like when I give you that list of questions and I say, hey, I want you to know all of those. And also when I was saying yesterday, it's not so much, I mean, it's good to know like these methods and what they do, and just like a general idea that they're out there. But I think the most important thing is to be able to describe what you want to do. Because if I know what I want to do and I can describe it well in English, what can I do?
Google
Let's
it.
Google it.
Google it. So if I didn't have the split method and you're stuck, you're like, what? Because you're going to definitely be getting stuck on some of these things, because like, I don't have the time to go over all these methods and all these things, and you're going to run into unique problems. But if you can, do this, then you have Google. And then you can go Google that, and like, there's a ton of information. There's videos, there's articles, galore. So there's a lot of different ways. And yeah, so it looks like, oh, call the split method, passing it a string containing a space as a parameter. Cool. And you could also, then you can kind of like look at that. Okay, well, so the split method will return in an array of the string's word, on which you can call the length property. Cool. So the split method, I can give it a character to split on. So, and what I want to split it on is the space. And so every time it sees a space, it's going to push that word into an array, and then we can count the length. And then what I'm saying with the sandbox, in the sandbox, you can just have a file where you can kind of like experiment. And like let y equal str. dot split. And here you can use like a console.log. I don't know why. So you can kind of come in here and see what's going on. So this I would run node source. If I want to run a specific file, not a test, but a file, I just give it the path to the relative path to the file. And see, when I log that, I can see it's yo, yo, yo. There's also another, like there's a website, you can do websites that do this, like there's repelit.com. That let's just do node. Where you could come in here, it's the same thing as like just run it in a terminal. This just might be a little more clean to you. So it could just like, I'm just going to copy this code in here. It does the same thing, but you can have this little playground where you can like just kind of be like a little mad scientist and go experiment on just this little subset of a problem. Like take it out of the, because a lot of the times we're going to be working on huge projects, right? You can maybe even start to see, like this is getting a little big, right? Maybe you just kind of want to like separate all of that code and just look at one little specific example. And then you can mess around with that. So then you could do like a console.log, y.length, like it suggested. Cool. And there's 3. So it looks like that's a good way to get our length. So it looks like I just need to split the string on an empty space and then return the length of that array. So then I can go back to my actual code in the demo.js. And I can do like let word array equal words dot split, give it that empty string. It's down here. And then I can return word array dot length. Save that, and let's now run my test. I get an error. All right, so let's look at this. When I get to, so can you see how these two have passed? So this can be a lot of testing too. You'll see, some of them are passing, some of them are not. And we could even see this. So I could even go like comment this one out. Yeah, so it looks like it's working, right? Except for this one case. So it's like string 3. For some reason, it doesn't like this empty string. And so then I can check that. That's what I expect, right? I think that's, my test is good, right? I think I would expect that to be 0. I think that's fine. So it looks like there's something wrong with, maybe my logic. So let's go look at why that's happening. So what I could go is I could go back to my sandbox, see, and then go look at this one specific case. Hey, why is the empty string failing? So it looks like if I have something without a space, it just returns that nothingness. So then I have an array of 1. So I need to now fix this. So it looks like I can't go in and I can't change the split method. I kind of need to like handle this case. Any ideas? Well, why don't I use an if statement? Or you're trying to explain it in English, like, well, there's this one case where it's breaking. Hey, like, man, if it's an empty string, I want it to return 0, right? You know, if it is an empty string, and you know, I also might want to, since I'm here, what happens if they give me a string that has a space in it? Is that gives me 2? That gives me 3 spaces. Okay, so now I'm kind of, I found 2 of these weird edge cases. Seems like this, you know, it's not working on that and it's not working on this. So I kind of, because I could do something like this. So let's just do if words. So I could say, hey, if words equals that, can I just return 0? That might pass that one. But yeah, we also saw that, you know, if it's if there's a space in there, that's also not going to work. So honestly, off the top of my head, I don't know how to fix this. But what I do know is I know what I need to do. I could say like, I need to like, maybe I want to remove all, like, I want to like remove trailing whites, like, because now we're getting into like weird edge cases where it could have like multiple spaces. So I would expect that to be 0. I would expect, well, let's see, should we expect that to be 2? Maybe I'm getting a little too, yeah, these 2 are going to fail. Let's see if this one fails. Yeah, so let's do this. Let's, so what I could do is like remove, you know, leading and trailing space JavaScript. So it looks like there's a trim method. Sweet. So I could do a, so then once again, I might, if I could go here, I could like maybe even try it out there, but I'm going to go to my sandbox. And let's do a str.trim. I'll split that. So I want to split that on an empty string. What is this doing? Okay. Let's do a console.log. That's still not removing it. Trim. I don't want to get into regular expressions. Okay, I'm going to skip this for now just because sake of time and just, I don't have, for your tests, I don't have these weird edge cases. So for now, we'll leave it like this. But I think you can see we can like figure out like, yeah, if there is this weird edge case, we can like throw like an if statement in here and handle those weird edge cases. And then I could leave like a to do, like, you know, is not working. Like if it has more, if it has an empty space. So, but I want to get to arrays really quick just because of the homework. So there's a little word count function, but can you see you're going to be heavily relying on Google?
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So with the word count function, is there a way that we could check within the array after the array is created to see if any of the entries are just an empty space? And if so, delete those entries before doing the dot length?
Totally. That would be, that was how I would like do it, but we don't really know those methods. But yes, we could. And let's go talk about arrays now as a good segue to that. Because you could totally just go remove the empty spaces from the array. And that would be a good way to do it. So let's make a new file and call it arrays.js. And I actually want to throw this here. And then I'm going to do a new test, or arrays.test.js. And also just to like, just comment also more on what you said, if that would work. There's going to be a lot of many different ways to solve that problem. So it's not like there's one way. That's the thing about coding. It's not like there's one way to fix an issue. There's going to be a lot of different ways, a lot of different strategies. It kind of makes coding fun. It's very creative. So, let's talk about arrays though. So let's just first do some tests. It describes arrays. So here I am just going to like declare an array right here. Let's do some nums. Okay, so let's do access. Or let's say grab an item. So expect, and we talked about this briefly yesterday, right? So how would I get the first thing in the array? Sorry, I'm going to make these so we don't get the numbers confused with the index.
So in the brackets next to nums, you're going to put 0.
Yeah. And then we can run this yarn test arrays. It's not going to let me. Test.js. Cool. So that's working. What would you expect this to be? I'll just tell you. Because, well, what's the issue with this? What's kind of going on here?
There is no entry number 3 in the array nums.
Yeah. So a lot of languages would fail on this, cause an error. JavaScript is just going to be, that's just going to be undefined. I'm pretty sure it might be null. Let's double check. Yeah, it's undefined. So if you try to grab something that's not in the array, it's just going to return undefined. Which is probably, with other languages, you get like a array out of bounds error exception. Which is probably better because you probably do want it to break if you're trying to access something that's not there. But anyway, so how do I add something to front of the array? Ideas? There's always an acceptable answer.
Would
Is
it
it
be
put?
shift?
Oh, shift.
Yeah, shift. But if you always say Google, you have because that is a good question. That is very specific. There's going to be an answer on Google for that. But yes, this is going to be, we could do a nums dot shift. Let's do like, yeah, 99. And then here we would expect num.0 to be num 99. Did we get it right? It's 20. Wait, what? You can also throw in here a console.log nums. It might just be nice to see them. So that, where did that throw that? 2030. Oh, no, isn't it unshift?
That was a guess, not an assertion on my part.
Yeah, so that sounded right. It's unshift. It's such a weird name. So it's unshift to add something, and then yeah, we saw that unshift. Removes something from array. And in particular, the front of the array. So this is just shift. So here I would expect X to be 99, but now I expect this to be 10. So here I unshift 99, so I add it to the front. So I now expect the thing at the front to be 99, and then I shift it, but I can then store that variable, that result to a variable. I expect that to be 99, but now I expect the first thing of the number array to be 10. So there's all sorts of these methods that add, remove. But it's important to also think about what these methods return. So this removes and returns the thing it removes. So I can store that to a variable. So although it's no longer in the array, I can like hold on to it and do stuff with it. But if I didn't want to like remove it from the array, then I can just index it. See, indexing it doesn't remove it. It just allows me to grab it. Shift actually removes it. From the front, there's also, there's push and pop. So I'm just going to say push and pop. Those add, remove, start. Let me look at the homework. I kind of want to focus on what the homework needs. Let's do, I think something that you are going to want to be able to do is looping through an array for the homework. And we're going to spend a lot more time on this. So this is just like the basics. So loop through in an array. Let's talk about the for each loop. So I'm going to come do this in let's just do this in actually right here in this code sandbox. So loop through array in JavaScript. Because I'm going to have you do things like, hey, find the lowest number, find the highest number. What what else do I have you doing? The sum, like go through and get the sum of all the numbers in an array. Yeah. So let's look how we could loop through an array. So one is going to be the for each loop. So on an array, I can call this for each loop or this for each function. And this function, this for each function actually takes a function. Okay, what does that mean? We kind of looked at that right earlier. Let's write a function that sees, like, I want to write a function like is greater than 10. Okay, so this function takes a number. And let's do this. This is going to do a console dot. Let's just do a console.log the number right now. Right, is greater than 10. 30. If I run this, undefined is not a function. Doesn't like about this. So it just takes a number and it logs it, right? So what I could also do is I could do it if, number is greater equal to 10. I am just going to do a console.log for now. Let's do the num plus, we're just going to do some string concatenation is greater than 10. Let's say greater or equal than 10. And then else num is less than 10. And then I could, give this like 3. So questions on this so far. I just have a function I call is greater than 10, takes a number. If it's greater than 10, it just logs these two different things. What I can do with the for each function is I can pass, so the for each function, what I want to do, I want to give it a function. Notice I'm not calling the function or passing it a number. I'm just passing the function as an argument to the for each function. What the for each function is going to do, it's going to go through each of the things in the array and call the function I gave it. And it's going to use the thing it's going through as it's going to pass it as the argument to this function. So when I run this, and let me comment out these ones. See how it's going through all my things in the array, running that function. But once again, it's kind of like if I have strings, let's do some strings.
Sorry, I have an unrelated question. How did you open up that that editor that you're in right now?
This is just Replit. This is a internet. This is just a website.
Gotcha.
So I can actually throw that out. It's just a nice little, I mean, we could be doing this in VS Code.
Okay.
This is nice because I can like share this with you.
Should we be following along and coding with you, or are we just watching?
You can just watch, I think, for now, since I am going a little quicker.
Gotcha.
And yeah, like I know we're going fast through this. I just kind of want to get far enough so you can at least, I think it's still maybe going to be a little confusing with your homework, but you can at least try and go through it. And then we'll definitely spend some more time with arrays and objects tomorrow. But the point I want to get at here, so I now have a strings array. What's going to be the issue though here? When I do my strings array, which is it's an array of strings, I'm passing it the is greater than 10 function. I'm going to go through like each of my strings, A. So that becomes the string A if the string A is greater than 10. What does
It'll
that mean?
probably return an error, won't it? Because it can't compare a string to a number.
Yeah, honestly, like I don't know. It's like once again, I'm trying to do something like this, 1 plus car. Like it's like what? I don't know. And in JavaScript, it's always like, dude, I don't know what it's gonna do. A is less than 10. Okay, B is less than 10. So I guess A is less than 10 because it's probably why is that? I don't know. Maybe it's like has to do with like ASCII and like how how it's stored. It's like maybe somewhere in alphabetical order. Because you might get like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So it might be doing like alphabetical comparison. So but it's the point is, it's like I'm expecting this for each function to be past a function that's going to do something with a number. But that's how you can do the for each. You can also do so let's just do, actually, let's take, I think, what time is it? Yeah, let's call it lunch. I think when we get back from lunch, maybe we'll do one of the array problems together and to kind of show you how to do the loops. But yeah, let's take lunch. I threw this out in Slack. I will also do it because I want to push my code up to GitHub. So I'm going to do a git add dot commit -m demos, and then I'm going to push that up to master. So now that's up on GitHub.
Did you push the demo test and the array test also?
Yep, those. If you might need to, you're going to need to refresh GitHub.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, those are all should all be up there.
Okay.
Cool. Or I can double check.
They're here.
Yep. Yeah. 1 minute ago. Yep. Those got there. Cool. Well, sweet. Let's yeah, it's what time is it? It's 1:10. So I guess we'll just come back at 2:10 for lunch and we'll have more time to work on homework today. Cool. See y'all later. Have a good lunch.
Can we come back in the
Oh
help
yeah,
desk one?
yeah. Come back, come to the TA help desk channel.